Hello everyone, this is KWK here with another long play for you. This time we're going to be playing a Game Boy game. And the Game Boy game, as you can see, that we'll be playing today is Super Mario Land. This is pretty much one of the first Game Boy games I've ever played before. And as long as we're talking about first times, this is the first time I've ever played a Game Boy game all the way through long play and completed one on a Super Game Boy, which you can see we're using today. Super Game Boy is an adapter that you can use to put original Game Boy games in a cartridge that fits in your Super Nintendo or Super Famicom. With that device, you can, as you can see, play your Game Boy games on a much larger screen. There's also Game Boy players for the GameCube, but I prefer using the Super Game Boy for my original Game Boy games just because it feels more authentic because you're using, we'll say, older technology with older technology. So this is always a better route, in my opinion, when you're playing older technology. So as you can see, while I'm trying to struggle my way through this for the first time, there's a lot of stuff going on here. I don't normally have a lot of expertise with this game because I haven't really played this game before in any other situation than maybe borrowing it from a friend at school or a relative that would have it, because personally I never had an original Game Boy. I didn't get my very first Game Boy until I was in college. I purchased a Game Boy Advance, so that was actually the very first Game Boy I ever owned. And with that, I played a lot of advanced games, and not so much original Game Boy games, but I am familiar with original Game Boy games, and I've played them a lot by borrowing other people's Game Boys or playing them amongst other different methods like a Super Game Boy. But as far as sitting down and playing through an entire game, this is the first time on a Super Game Boy for me easily. I do remember playing this game and having a good time, but I never remembered really getting much farther than like past the level where you're a submarine in this game, either because maybe I had to shut the game off because recess was over, or whoever I was playing it wanted it back or something. But either way, it doesn't matter. I never really got farther than that level, and today we're going to see how far I can get. I'm definitely trying, and you know what, I've played a lot of Mario games, and I don't know if it's because I'm on the Super Game Boy, but the controls here seem a little stiff. I'm normally used to always running in Mario games, just me and the run button. I hold that down and I never look back when I play Mario games, and it usually works very well for me. But I've noticed in this game, when you hold the run button, the control really gets tough. I mean, super tough in my opinion. I've been mainly staying off the run button and only using it for jumps that I need, just because I feel I got a better, steadier control now. I haven't really plugged this into an old Game Boy and tested it to see if there's much difference in the control between the Super Game Boy and original Game Boy. Maybe you guys could post your comments or ideas on how big of a difference Super Game Boy is between that, but to me, the controls are pretty stiff at this setup, and it might just be the game, it might be Super Game Boy. I don't know at this point, but I'm going to try to work with it the best I can here. So I'm just playing it, taking it easy. I'm not running as much as I normally would in any Mario game, and we're just going to see how far I can get. As you can see, with Super Game Boy, they give you the options of adding color to the games. I left this color palette option, that is the default one. And this default option seems to be, I mean, pretty aesthetically pleasing. I'm assuming that the default color option the Super Game Boy comes with is the, we'll say, Nintendo preferred one, even though there is a large amount of different color palettes you can pick from. I've noticed a lot of different videos online. People post the Game Boy games in black and white pretty much, and I didn't really want to do that just because so many other people are doing it, and this gives it a little bit more flavor, a little bit more detail, a little bit more color, gives it some variety. It's kind of interesting to see it on a Super Game Boy since there's so many other black and white Game Boy long plays and reviews and games online for the Game Boy. Let me know what you think about using Super Game Boy as opposed to using the Game Boy player on the GameCube or other means of recording Game Boy footage for reviews or long plays. This game is a pretty easy and tough at the same time. I mean, as I was playing this game, the first two worlds seemed pretty fun and enjoyable and forgiving, but there's just such a curve, in my opinion. As you progress through this game, once you hit like World 3, it just gets ridiculously more difficult compared to the first couple of worlds. I mean, maybe that's just me. I haven't played this game that much to say that I am an expert at it in the least, but just from pulling out an old game like this and trying to do a long play with it, it was to say the least a little bit more challenging than I anticipated it to be. I really thought I was going to pop this sucker in, mow it down, and call it a day, and it'd be like a all-in-one take. And I'll tell you right now, this is, I believe, my third attempt at playing this game today, and hopefully we'll get it all the way through and we can actually beat it. My first time I tried it, I warmed up. I was trying to get used to the controls and playing around with the options on the Super Game Boy. A big option with the Super Game Boy that I noticed that is kind of off to me is by default, it was giving me on a Super Nintendo controller B and A to stay as B and A, which you'd think would make sense, but it's not too comfortable on a Super Nintendo controller playing a Game Boy game. It seemed much better that I used the other control option with the Super Game Boy, that I used Y and B, just because my thumb rested easier on it. So once I was able to adjust the controls, leave it on this palette, get used to the stiffness that Mario handles in this game, it's much more playable. But the funny thing is, I just remember this game being very fun, action-packed, quick for its time when I played it when it first came out. And it's definitely aged to me. It's definitely aged a little bit. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is still a very good game for what it is, but it's the controls are what's just killing me, and I just don't understand why it feels so stiff in this one. I mean, I've played a lot of Mario games, and usually control is the number one thing that they got down cold, but the controls in this, especially when you're holding the run button, they just seem like they are all over the place. I cannot keep up with the run button very well in this, so as you can see while I'm playing, I'm not going to be that adventurous. I'm just going to be probably walking most through and then running as needed in this game. The other big bonus that I like this game is just kind of the variety of the levels. It's kind of funny how this is called Super Mario Land, and it seems like you're going around the entire world in all these different areas with different experiences. And then you have Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo, where you're just in Super Mario's world. It's, when you say world, you think you'd go all around the world like this in land, but you don't. It's just Mario's Mushroom Kingdom world, that's all. But this game, as you can see, is definitely very original Mario is the best way to put it. I mean, the graphical look of it, the control of it. The enemies are a little bit different because I don't know if they just did it to be different for this game or because there was limitations for the programming of this game. But I noticed turtle shells, you can't really, I mean, knock them around. They just explode in this game. And a lot of the bad guys, man, they get pretty annoying. Like right there, I had to get away from a turtle shell before it exploded. The underground levels got a lot of coins in this setup. It's definitely very different than what you'd say of any other Mario. It's got its own Mario flavor, so that's why I'd like to say that the Mario Land series is very good in its own way, but you can't really say it's just like another Mario. I mean, this one's kind of in its own realm and it has similarities to other Marios, but in its own way, it's still unique. And right here, that is just, I mean, it looks easy, but it really isn't if you can feel the controls. It's very stiff, just trying to walk around a bit, not get hit by things. And if somebody just speeds through and holds the run button through this game, it's very tough. And you want the difficulty to increase in this game, there is no difficulty level setting in this game. But if you want it to get harder, just hold run the entire time you play this game. That'll easily make this game much more difficult for you. A lot of things that are interesting about this is there's really no typical Mario characters in this one. There's no Toad, there's no Princess Toadstool, but you do have Princess Daisy. I believe this is where she was introduced in this game. You don't have Bowser, you don't have Bowser's kids as adversaries. You just got different types of adversaries pertaining to the theme of the land that you're in. Very different mechanics, especially here with your fireball is not exactly a fireball in this game. It's kind of like throwing a rubber ball, which is kind of interesting that it bounces around. That's much different than the other Nintendo Mario series. This is the only one that I can think of where it actually bounces around. And the way that it does, the trajectory of it. And yeah, I mean, this long play was pretty labored for me. It wasn't easy. I'm sure there's a lot of different long plays out there that are approaching this game in a whole different way, but this is just me picking up a game that I have not played, and I couldn't tell you the last time as a kid. And I just popped it in a Super Game Boy that I had and took a shot at it today. So I just want to say, please enjoy the rest of this video. We'll see how far I get. Obviously, since it's a long play, I do pull it off. Bear with me during the ending. I definitely went through a lot of lives on the last guy, and I did not realize how much was involved in getting that last guy done for me. I was just having the hardest time, and I just concentrated as much as I could, and I got him on the last life. So you're going to see a lot of deaths on me on that one, but I am just happy that I didn't use any continues, and it just squared away right at the end. So if you have any thoughts or ideas, please leave comments and subscribe. And everybody, thank you for your time. Have a good one.